All right, everybody, happy Sunday and welcome to our second live OrbisX training where we're going to walk through this platform in all of its really entirety and details that we didn't necessarily get to last time. Before I keep going, guys, I want to make sure everybody can hear me. So in the questions box, will you put a 1 if you can hear me and a 2 if you can see the screen that Shawn is currently sharing, which is basically, can you hear my voice and can you see the OrbisX platform here? 1-2s if we can. Yeah, so it looks like we got some 1-2s coming in, and we have less than 20 people. Well, people are continuing to filter in, actually, even as I just said that. So we will have people filter in and out, and we are going to go max 1 hour tonight. Shawn has some very specific things to get through tonight in the OrbisX platform, and I actually have a list right here to make sure he doesn't miss anything because it's a lot, okay? So guys, we're not going to be doing a in-depth Q&A tonight, but just know that next Sunday, which is the final live training for the OrbisX platform. And of course, we will be answering questions throughout the lifetime of your subscription. So this is not a final, if I have questions in the future, I won't be able to get them answers. This is just a final, the final part of our 3-part series within the Detailing Profits Masterclass of learning the ins and outs of this platform. So there are some very exciting things to go over tonight, and that's why we're not doing Q&A, because we just want to get to the content. But next week, what I was getting at is next Sunday, the final 3rd training, we might walk through a couple things if necessary, but it's going to be very, very heavy Q&A. So just get your questions ready for next week, and I'll also be taking questions within the Facebook group and the email list of everybody within the Detailing Profits Masterclass, just in case you guys have specific questions that you don't want us to miss. We can open up the call next week by answering those questions first things first. So guys, without further ado, Shawn, I'm going to let you take over. I can see your screen. Everybody else can see your screen. Guys, I'm going to be in the chat box, so if you have any technical issues, please reach out in the chat box, and I'll try to take care of it for you. Shawn, you can take it away.
Perfect. And good evening, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome. So today we are going to cover a lot of ground. So Luke, if you can just throw them out at me, because I don't have the list necessarily in front of me. I'm looking at the screen as we go. I know the first one.
Totally. Okay, the first thing we want to talk about here, actually, and I'm not going to go in total order, but Shawn, if you'd like to open up with what I believe is what we just looked at was the mobile booking feature, but the kind of the newish, addition here. Let's get excitement rolling and let's talk about that first.
Perfect. Sounds fantastic. So on the note of the booking form, so there's a lot of ways to book, leads into the system. One is, of course, if you have your own website form, you can actually integrate that directly with this here. So Web Forms Lead API, and it's going to show you your API key, your URL, and then give you instructions on how to hook that up. Usually you would give this to your web developer unless you've got some tech background, and this is something that you could do yourself. So that's option 1. Option 2 is you can actually integrate with Zapier. So you can set up a Zapier account and you could connect OrbisX to, Google Calendar, or there's a lot of other calendars and integrations there as well. The system right now does also come with a built-in booking system, so you can actually book appointments. It's a very straightforward system, very straightforward form. You can customize the background. I'll show you this simple form, and then I'll show you a sneak peek of what's coming in the pipeline in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's going to absolutely shake up the industry, and you're going to love it. So to go over the simple system that's there now, essentially you would have your own custom booking form link, and that can be found when you click on the leads and then booking request section. And you'll see that there's also a full video of this pre-recorded I can send if someone needs it after. And I believe, Luke, you are recording this for the resources as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so assuming that you copy this link, you can actually add this to your website. So I'll just click this link to show you. It's a very straightforward, simple page. This has OrbisX right now because we're in the OrbisX demo account, but this would actually be replaced by your logo, and you can customize the background as well. So it's, they choose the date and time, and then from there, they're able to essentially choose the service or services. so
And
they
Shawn,
could
I'm going
add.
to interrupt you as you're doing this. I'm going to keep
Sure,
interrupting Shawn
not a
throughout the
problem.
night here to make sure that I'm going to be the question asker here, just like I was last time. So just to make sure that I'm clear here, the booking feature, just in general here, this is a booking form that you might find on a detailer's, and I'm asking you, Shawn, this is a booking form that you might find on a detailer's website where the customer can go to, let's say, the contact us or book now button,
Exactly.
and they're met with this form that says, what date and time, what type of detail service, what type of car. They type in their information, the customer does that, and then you
Exactly.
get notified within the OrbisX app of this new booking. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And you can change settings like block off dates that you're not available, things like that in the settings page as well, which I'll go over shortly too. And then so they can add different services, and you can choose if you have a shop, you can offer all your services at the shop, or you can specify which ones are mobile, which ones are both mobile and at shop, things like that. And then the system will detect if, in this case, for example, because we selected windshield replacement, that one's set to mobile, it pops up and asks them, do you want shop service or mobile? And then asks them for an address. Now, let's say if we remove that, then it's going to, update based on what services they've selected in the system. So tinting, in this case, for example, is reserved for just at the shop, so it doesn't offer the option for mobile. So there's different settings you can tweak to make it, work for your business particularly. And then, of course, they choose the year, make, model. They enter their contact details, any special notes. They request an appointment. Then
And
that's
this is the Orbis X specific custom form that we were just looking at there.
yes.
So you're saying that, let's say I at wilsonautodetailing.com do not have a booking form, but I want one. I can just take this link and embed it or add it to it would. We
Yes.
could talk about the specific language to go literally in the back end of the website, but I can copy this link and I can essentially put this into the back end of my website, and I can have this as a button that the customer could click on my website, book now, and it would take them to that page we just looked at.
Exactly, exactly. And it would be custom branded with your logo. Whatever you've uploaded, it'll show up here, and that would show up on that form. And once again, it's found under leads and then booking requests. And that's where you're actually going to see all the booking requests that you have. And it'll show the active ones that are unconfirmed, as well as it'll show other ones. If you click confirmed in the filter, it's going to reload, and it'll show you just the ones that you've confirmed. And it'll show
And
the
then
vehicle, the customer.
in the beginning of that, you were saying, if you all, I just want to make sure I break down the tech language,
Sure.
talking about Zapier and integrating things. And so what you were saying with that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is if someone already has a booking form on their website, we can just integrate that. We can integrate OrbisX with that. And
Yes.
so should they go through the non-custom OrbisX booking platform or booking form that's already on your website, it will still come to your OrbisX app.
Yes, absolutely. And both options are available because we tried to factor in that some people may not even have a website. They're going with just a Facebook page. So in that case, that's where this form becomes really handy. Other times you might have a more in-depth form where you ask a lot of different questions. And in that case, you might want to do the web forms leads API and go through those steps with your web developer, and they'll be able to integrate your custom form on your website into the system. And then the third option is, of course, Zapier as well, where
And
you can
in
connect
the
different things.
program, truth be told, we don't talk a lot about booking forms, especially in the beginning. It's very heavy on interacting with the customer at every step of the way, including those initial stages of just initial phone calls, initial bookings. We don't have a ton of,
Absolutely.
but some of the detailers, of course, inside the program are utilizing that booking form, and it's working really well for them. But this is good information nonetheless. That's for sure. Um,
Absolutely. And that's the thing is
yeah.
that like even at our shop, we use our own like specific forms, and it just goes to our email, and we follow up with them by phone usually, or we'll follow up with an email. We just prefer that process because it's a great time to upsell things like that. We do
Totally.
have forms where it's automated as well, but we tried the fully automated thing before, and our bookings just dropped. We thought, oh, we won't have to answer the phone anymore. We won't have to answer emails, and it's just not the case, right?
Right, right. So
Yeah,
it's good to couple those things together when you get to a certain point, because you can kind of outsource some of that customer interaction. But like you said, yeah, you kind of think, oh, well, this is going to skyrocket if I let a robot do it. And truth be told, that doesn't
it's
always happen. And I will say,
absolutely.
Keep going on this and you can finish with this, but the next thing let's go to is the job map. But again,
Perfect.
I just want you to be able to anticipate that. So you can keep going with
Absolutely.
this as
And
much as you need
I'll
to.
finish up with this simple one here, and then I'll show the quick sneak peek of the new one. And then so with this, just when a request comes in, because you'll notice there wasn't any pricing on that form, and that's because there's so many variables when it comes to this, that's where if you've spoken to them on the phone, for example, you could just click this one button and it'll automatically confirm it, put it in the calendar. Or if a request comes in, you can also click this button here, and that's where it's going to ask you if you want to, suggest a different time or date for the customer, and also you can put in a price, and it'll send that to the customer. So you click send edits to customer, and then they can review it, confirm it. That's if you want something that's automated. But once again, it's one of those things where you got to communicate with the customer. You really do. So use this as a tool to save you putting in data and things like that. It's already in there for you, but call the customer and you're going to have a higher closing rate. So that's essentially it though for the simple form. I'm going to switch into the sneak peek of this. This has been getting a lot of great feedback so far, as we're in beta testing right now. We're adding a few more pieces, but I'll just refresh so it starts over from scratch. So this is going to be the new form. It's very much more animated. It's a lot of, it's almost like a game for the customer. You'll be able to toggle options. Like if you don't do RVs or campers, you can toggle that off. For example, if you don't do planes, you can toggle that off. But this will allow the customer to book on their own, and it's a little more fun for them and collects the data that you need. So if it's a plane, you can get year, make, model, the length, and then they can suggest a color depending what you're doing to it. And then for vehicle, they'll be able to do the same, but then they have this cool little color picker that they can do here, so they can change the color. And then there's things like, what services you have. If you have packages associated to these, that'll be coming shortly. You'll be able to have those pop up as well, so the customer can choose a package. And then things like our place or yours, do they come to the shop or will come to you? And then they put in their address, and then is power available, is water available, so on and so forth. So this is going to be, there's a lot more to come with this, such as collecting deposits, all kinds of stuff's going to be built into this form. This should be launching in about 2 to 3 weeks. It's going to be, you don't have to pay extra. It just comes with your trial, obviously, and so you're good to go. It's just going to be included in the system. It's just one of the things that we do to keep making it better for you guys. And so this is going to be a lot improved on the booking form that's there now, but still, I do recommend that you put into your business process exactly what Luke's suggesting, whereas communicate with the customer, call them, because if you rely solely on a booking form, you're not going to see the same kind of numbers you will if you're involved.
But this is
So
really interesting because this is far and away the best booking form I've ever seen, because I mean traditionally you're looking at a booking form and it's like, I mean, at its worst, it's like at its best. It's like a
yeah,
piece of
exactly.
it's like a big square where it's just like information input columns and rows, and it just
Exactly.
sucks. So this is really, and this is super intuitive. No customer can mess this up. I mean, this is dummy proof as
Exactly.
well, but it's also just really visually appealing. And you're adding in things like, is water available, is electric available. That's so,
Exactly.
it's so
And
obvious that you would need that, but I've never seen one that would even approach that actually. And so yours,
absolutely.
just to be
And
clear,
then
this is the booking form that the customer is
would use.
filling
Yes.
out, and it's coming to your OrbisX front end and in your OrbisX account, and you're seeing this. This is going to be really interesting. I'm going to want to ask more questions about this to you later, and maybe I shouldn't even go down this road, but I'm thinking, you just said you'll get the notification from that booking form in the OrbisX platform, then you can add a price, you can contact the customer. This could be a really interesting way to essentially answer the phone, but you're answering a booking form with a customer who's already put in this information. They're already ready for the detail. So it presents this whole new kind of warmth to this customer that is, talk about closing customers easily. It's like if we're getting
Absolutely.
in contact with the customer after we've already received this form, man, you're walking into the conversation with this like loaded gun, and that's probably not an
Exactly.
analogy, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
And as you can see, this is embedded, like this is on our company website, AutoWorld. So just as a test, so we have it embedded there. So that's how it could show up, is actually on your website kind of thing, right? So they wouldn't have to go to another page, wouldn't have to go to another link. It's right there on your website. And then you're right, you get all that information and you just reach out to the customer, and it's so easy to close a deal at that point because you have all the information, right?
Dang,
Um,
that is pretty sweet.
Absolutely, and it looks slick. So that's the important thing too, right? And
Right,
there's
right, right.
more things coming. I made a list here of the things that are coming just in preparation for the webinar. For example, this here I'll go over in 2 seconds, but there's going to be upsells. So like have your cake and eat it too. It'll actually take a look at what they've selected here for the services, and then it's going to suggest different upsells that you've put into the system as well. It's also going to ask for the condition of the vehicle and then show, different things like, is it heavily swirled, for example, if you want paint correction, things like that. And then you'll be able to put in like distance surcharges. They can, with one click, if they choose a date that's not available, they could click to join the wait list, for example. It'll put them into Orbis on the wait list and stuff like that. And then this one is the important one. It's all the calendars that exist out there in the world right now force the customer to choose a date, and then if that date's not available, it's either blocked out or they have to choose another date, and then they're spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes just trying to choose a date that works. The system is integrating with the AI that's built in, and it's going to actually scan your calendar and suggest dates to them. And it's going to say, would one of the following times work for you based on the services you selected, or click here to choose your own, right? And the reason that's important is that by using the AI with it, it's going to take a look at where your slow days are. So instead of just letting a customer choose whatever day they want and then filling up your Tuesday's now booked solid, like beyond belief, but your Wednesday has nothing, the system's going to see that and suggest Wednesday instead. So it's going to try and funnel customers where it makes sense for your business. And that's going to help you maintain your quality level, help you with staffing and all kinds of stuff as well.
Dang,
So this is
that is
coming.
interesting.
Absolutely. And so this was very much built with, business and marketing in mind, as well as just being, super, super slick to use for the customer so that we want them to be able to book in 15 seconds, right? And so if they're just going through and it's like a game, like, oh, what vehicle I have a car. Tell us about the vehicle. Okay. What do I need done? Click, click, click. Like this looks like nothing else that's out there in the world right now. So it's going to make things
Definitely.
a lot
Definitely.
different.
This is awesome. I'm getting excited about it even as I'm sitting here. Um, okay,
Awesome.
now moving on from that, the job map. I'm not going to say
Yes.
anything and I will let you fully explain that, but this is another, as someone who I of course do a lot of, regular stationary detailing now, but as somebody who is mobile at heart, this is deeply impactful. So let's do it.
Absolutely, I agree. So under reports, you can go to job locations map. And when you click that, it's going to pull up all of your locations. These are just some test locations that we put in, of course, for the webinar. But let's just say here, we'll zoom in. It's going to actually cluster all of your jobs, and it's going to show you where, like here, brake dust removal, and then we can see here detailing, and then this one, another detailing. So it's going to cluster your jobs, and it's going to show you where the majority of your customers are. Now that's going to help you a lot with, number one, just logistics with scheduling things. Like if you have to hire somebody or you have to, bring on another staff member, you'll be able to say, okay, we're getting most of our jobs over here. So let me try and find someone that's, close to that area or doesn't mind traveling there, things like that. But it's also going to help you with your marketing dollars. So you're going to figure out, okay, you know what? We're getting most of our jobs in this neighborhood here, but I know that, this neighborhood here, for example, they have a lot of money. How come I'm not getting any jobs down there? So that's where you can start shifting your marketing ad spend, targeting people in those zip codes or postal codes. And you can also, do some print material, flyer handouts, things like that. So it's really helpful to know where your jobs are coming. And then being able to also set a date range, you can see, trends. And this is a new feature. So we will be building something as well that's a more report-based thing that's going to show you your trends. But you can look at this and kind of, cipher out your trends for you. You can say, okay, between this year and this year, we had a cluster here. Last year, our cluster was over here, for example. You can start to see where your customers are shifting to, and that's going to help you make better marketing decisions. We're going to build a report and further expand on this, of course, and it's going to automatically tell you where there's pockets or voids, and it's going to say 90% of your customers are within this demographic region, and you'll be able to put in, let's say, some zip codes or postal codes that would be high ticket like areas, areas where maybe there's just a lot more people with vehicles, or there's people where okay, there's more seniors in this area and they're going to prefer having someone come to their house, things like that. You'll be able to put in those zip codes and have the system compare that and then suggest things to you based on that. Like it'll make marketing suggestions, like maybe you could ramp up your Facebook ads in this area or things like that. So there's a lot coming this summer. This summer is going to be mostly just focused on marketing tools and reports in the system, and it's going to help you make, with AI, it's going to assess your business and make those kind of decisions for you. or
And it's worth
suggestions.
saying here that this is something that is not talked about a lot in the detailing. It's funny, the guys who are in the Detailing Profits Masterclass program here, who are on this call, they know this already. But the detailing world is saturated with information about how to detail, and it's shallowly missing information about how to run a business long term that
Yes,
works in the way that fits your particular goals, that works in the way you actually want it to work. And the reason I'm saying that is because we're living in a time now where you cannot overstate the value of information within your business.
absolutely.
That is the biggest asset that you have. So the fact that the type of information that OrbisX is collecting is not just down to obviously the straightforward contact information of the customer and the kind of direct information of the customer, like addresses and type of vehicle and things like that, but even that it's clustering, and you can actually look back and keep a record of areas where your detailing business serves the most. It's like when you can get that detailed with the type of information being collected over a long period of time. Again, I know this is hard to think about when you're starting out in business, but one day you're gonna have these information assets, and it's going to be very valuable to potential buyers. This is the kind of thing that
Absolutely.
people want. They're not just buying a detailing business. They want to buy a detailing business that has information. So this is
Absolutely.
this is pretty awesome.
Sometimes companies are even bought and sold just for the information. There's
Exactly.
if you get X amount of users, they'll buy your company just for the data. They don't even care about continuing your product or service. They just want the data, and that happens a lot. Some companies just collect data to sell it to third parties. So absolutely, the more data you can get, it number one, as Luke said, is going to help you with your exit plan at some point, whether that's to sell or pass on or so on and so forth. But also during the course of your business, I agree, it's hard to think about that year one, but if you start plugging in that info from now, you're going to be able to make so much better decisions down the road. And that's why we built this, for example, the report card. And so the job map is going to be an extension onto the report card as well, which assesses your business with AI and determines, certain things like your setup, and it gives you a grade based on how often you're logging in, if you've set up certain things in the system, your sales and bookings. So it's going to say your average booking per day is, so we know like, okay, there's 5.83 bookings per day on average. How many booked, days now versus our daily average, invoice sizes. It's going to collect all that kind of stuff, whether or not we're submitting Carfax reports, which we're going to touch on in a second. And then even your demographics, like how many bookings last 60 days, how many are repeat customers, average vehicle, is it older or newer, most common vehicle years, brands, models, things like that. All of that kind of information, it's just so crucial for your business. And if you keep up on these things, it's laid out very easily for you to dissect it. You're going to make so much better decisions. You might find like, geez, I really don't like the kind of customers I have right now, or maybe I wish I had a different kind of customer, or maybe you love them and you want more of those customers. Well, you can come here and you can say, okay, so what are my most common vehicles that I'm doing? You might have an idea of that, but some of it might surprise you, and you don't even realize like, geez, I'm doing more of these vehicles or less of these. So you can find services or packages that you can push to those with promotions that's going to hit that demographic a lot harder than if you had no idea, right?
Dang, that's pretty crazy. So it's also gathering, and the AI is will tell you just kind of in a simple way, the majority of vehicles you're servicing are Toyotas. Like that is that's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm thinking back when I started when I was 13 years old, starting my detailing business, pulling my radio flyer wagon around my neighborhood, knocking on
Geez, that's
doors.
amazing.
Can you imagine if I would have had something like this to
Oh my
collect
gosh.
information for the past over 10 years? Anyway,
Jeez. That
so
would be crazy. Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. Okay, next thing to move to is the Carfax. This
Beautiful.
guys is, well, you know what, I'm not going to say anything. I'll just, Shawn, you go ahead and give the whole context around that. But this, I think they'll probably pick up why this fits so perfectly with what we do in the program, along with everything else we've talked about. So Carfax,
Absolutely.
Shawn, go
So
ahead.
Good stuff. Thanks, Lou. So Carfax is great for you as a sales side of things, where you can tell the customer, like, listen, do your work at our shop, do your work with our business or our mobile company, because your information is going to get saved on Carfax. So when it comes time to sell your vehicle, the resale value is going to be there because someone can see that the vehicle was maintained regularly. They can see if there was a ceramic coating done, so on and so forth. Now, most of the time, ceramic coating companies do submit information to Carfax, but it gets submitted under their brand. So in this case, you can also have it submitted under your brand, which is pretty cool. And it's all automated. So all you have to do is collect a little bit of information when you actually finish the job. And then you basically put in that information, which I'll show you in a second. It's just quick form. And then it automatically uploads that to Carfax every night. So it happens automatic, and it'll show you when it was reported to Carfax. And then that way your customer knows, like, oh, wow, I got the work done and it was reported to my Carfax. The customer is going to be happier. You can usually, build up a much better reputation because they'll explain to people, oh, the guy you use regularly, you should check out this guy instead, because the information gets saved to Carfax. And that way, it preserves the resale value of your vehicle. So it's a really good sales tactic to bring forward to the customer. And at the same time, you can also keep a detailed record of what was done to the vehicle. So that helps as well. Now, it's done on the invoice side. So the way Carfax works is it only reports jobs that are paid for. So you have to, submit it. It has to be an invoice, and the only time it submits is once the invoice is paid. So if it's an outstanding invoice, it doesn't submit to Carfax, which is another great way that you can make sure customers pay you. You can say, well, we can't submit to Carfax until you make that payment. So on your invoice, when you're editing it, this is what an invoice would look like when you're editing the invoice. There's a Carfax section. It's got the big logo here. It tells you if it was reported or if it hasn't been submitted yet. You can put the odometer reading, and depending on your settings in the back end, this will either be kilometers or it'll be miles, depending. This account's set up for the metric system, but you can change that under settings. So you put in the VIN number. It's going to look up and pull in the vehicle, and then from that point, it automatically pulls in the stuff that was on the appointment based on the service, and you can actually add and customize these as well. So I'll pull up an empty invoice and show you what that would look like. Let me just go, invoices. And because the really important part here is that there's a lot of different softwares out there that will integrate with Carfax, which is great, but they're very rigid. So you can't actually, now I need a random VIN. Sorry, give me 2 seconds here. Random VIN. Let's see. Random VIN.
I'm just amazed that you can go to a website and get a random VIN.
Absolutely. See, there we go. We got a 06 BMW. So I know, it's pretty amazing. And you can choose a random valid one or a random real one. So you can, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So you can just.
That's hilarious.
Let me close this one out. Let me put in a different VIN here. Let's see. This one, we got a GMC Terrain. Okay. So you put in the VIN. Now, if you're using the mobile app, this section here, instead of saying VIN, it's going to say scan VIN. So you can actually push that button, and then a screen's going to pop up on your phone, and you can scan the VIN. It's going to automatically put it in there, but you also have the option to type it out as well. So once it's typed out, now this, because I clicked invoice, I didn't click from a job, it's leaving me to fill it out. But if you click it from the calendar to create an invoice, it automatically will pull over whatever services they were booked for, right? But the cool thing here is that you can actually customize what's shown here. So on the Carfax report, it's not going to say just some random company or something like that. It's actually going to say your business, your address, if it's listed, your phone number, your website, and it's going to say service was done, and then it's going to say the following details that you put here. So you can customize this. If someone came in, let's say for a ceramic coating, I can put specifically what they got, and I could list this out. You can type whatever you want in here, and then you can add different services. If they also came for brake dust removal or whatever the case was, you can customize this. And that's hugely important because you might have done certain things. Maybe they got just detailing done. A lot of the software that's out there, it'll just submit detailing, and that's it. And so it's like, okay, great, you got the car detailed, but what exactly was done? In this case, it might be, we removed stains from the back seat, we did salt removal, we, removed brake dust, we polished this, polished that. You can be very specific here in terms of what was actually done, and that will show up on the Carfax record. So that's hugely important. And then, like I mentioned, it says not reported yet. Once this invoice is paid, that will actually automatically submit to Carfax, and it gets submitted nightly, and then it just updates and it reports back that it's been reported, and it'll show up on your customer's Carfax. So it's a hugely, hugely important feature. It's something you should definitely take advantage of. It takes almost no time at all. To show you as an example, I'll go to the calendar and show you the regular process of what you would do. So I'll just click on this job here at random, and we'll go down, and if I click the invoice button, so I'll click that, it's going to copy over, oh, because I didn't put in the VIN yet. Let me get another random VIN, just grab that one, put that in. There we go. So it copied over the service that they were in for automatically based on the event that was in the calendar. So I don't have to type that out. But maybe when they were there, they were like, oh, I would really like to have, this reported on my Carfax because I got that done from you as well. And maybe they want to get really specific. And so you could be like, engine detailing. They got that done. You threw it in for free and they want it on the Carfax. This is where the flexibility of this gives you that option. Whereas other softwares, it would limit you to only what they came in for. Whereas this, you could actually put, I know I gave it to you for free, but you did have it done. So let me add that to your Carfax. And then you simply add it in here, add engine fully detailed showroom ready, and then boom. Now I have their VIN here. I can put in their odometer reading. And then once I save this invoice and it gets paid, it's automatically submitted.
This is insane because one of the I don't know, I'm like ashamed of myself for not thinking of something like this earlier, I'm like, this is something I missed, it slipped through the cracks. But the funny thing is, it's like, it seems so obvious, because what's one of the first things that somebody like wants to see, if they're buying an SUV used, let's just say even from a private dealer, or a private seller, somebody just selling it and they're getting a big van because their family's expanding. One of the first things you want to see is, did you keep the records of like the last 3 years of oil changes? And it's like,
Exactly.
well, of course you want to see that, because how well did you take care of the car? I'm not a mechanic.
Exactly.
I'm not going to be able to examine under the hood and make that kind of decision of how, how this looks like. How much more sellable, how easy does that conversation become when it's like, yep, here's the past 3 years records of this, here's this, here's this. And I just can't believe that that's never been something that the detailing world has prioritized. I'm thinking to
It's
myself,
true.
if I was buying a new or a 2012 Honda Pilot because my wife's, having a baby here and we're buying a bigger car, and in that buy, I get a record of 4 years worth of not just what was detailed, but what happened, how it was detailed, what was specifically taken care of. It's like, oh my gosh, that is, you
Yep.
talk about the long-term benefits of that. I don't know, that's hard to overstate.
It's true. You're absolutely right. And that's one of the reasons it's built in there, and it's done in a way that benefits you as a detailer as well, by the fact that it submits your information, rather than a lot of places just sell a ceramic coating. They're like, oh yeah, it gets listed on your Carfax, but it gets listed under the brand that did it. Whereas this way it can be tracked right back to the shop. So if someone sees that Carfax report, you're also getting the exposure of having your business, your website listed on the Carfax report. And you
Totally.
did the work. You deserve the credit for that. Absolutely. So with this, you can actually put that in and customize that to your needs. Now, I just wanted to touch on something, because in case someone's curious how to change it, the unit system from metric to imperial. So under admin, settings and options, the first section, general, scroll down and there's a thing here for unit system. It defaults to imperial, but you can change it back and forth between metric and imperial there, depending on if you're using miles, kilometers, or so on and so forth. So
Yeah, this
good
is
stuff.
the USA, so we use miles and gallons, okay,
Uh,
Shawn?
Absolutely. Oh, I know.
Doesn't make any
Trust me.
sense, but we're gonna do it anyways, okay?
Yes.
Um, in addition to that, let's jump down to, let's see, I'm looking at my bulleted list here. Let's go to the mileage tracker. We have not yet talked about
Beautiful.
that.
Yeah, the mileage tracker is pretty awesome. I love it. So let me go to the section where you can actually, where you can see your mileage. So my mileage, and then I'll go over things and show how to turn it on, how to get there, stuff like that. So the mileage tracker is really useful just for yourself to know how much you're moving around and how much you're traveling for business. So that is important. I have to find a day where I was testing and actually tracked some mileage. I think I found one. Not enough. So let me find one where I was actually logging some distance here. Because we launched this, I think, end of April. just give me a second here to choose date
We need
range.
a
Let me just
random
do that.
website we can go to get a
Yeah,
random
to get some mileage. Yeah, let me
mileage length, average distance.
exactly. And so, and what I'll do, I'll explain the importance of it while I'm pulling that up here. So here's where I was doing my testing. You can see, I literally got in my car and was just driving around. So, so basically, the mileage tracking is good for yourself to see, how much wear and tear you're putting on your own personal vehicle or your work vehicle for your business, but it's also important for tax time as well. So that's where it differs, depending on your region, but most places there will be some sort of tax credit or rebate for, the kilometers or miles that you're using for business purposes. And so that's important. If you have an accountant, they're going to, be able to help you with that. They're going to want that info. If not, there's going to be somewhere on the box in the software you use to file your taxes where you can put in a mileage expense. And so that's where you can put that in because it does help reduce your taxes, and it varies on the rates that you would get back. But I know for myself at our shop, we do get a kickback, and we do have mobile units on the road doing windshield replacement, things like that. And that wear and tear on the vehicle, it's part of an operating expense. So having a way to track that is important. And most importantly, instead of just tracking particularly one vehicle, we can actually track individual staff members, which is really important, right? So that's hugely important because we can build them out differently for our tax credits here. And I'm sure it's the same in a lot of demographics and regions as well. So to turn it on, really simple. Of course, that only works with the app because you need to be tracking your GPS location. So if you have the app, you can turn it on by clicking on your name at the top, and then there's going to be a thing here that says mileage tracker. You simply click and it turns on. As you can see now it's on, and I can click and turn it off. And the cool thing is you can turn that on and off from outside of the app. So as you can see, I'm using this on the web version. I can turn it on or off. So if I forget or something like that, I can simply turn it off and it automatically updates on the app for me, right? So that way you can, if you get home and you're, oh, I don't even want to look at my phone anymore, you leave your phone there. Well, you can just log on your laptop 2 seconds, turn it off or what have you, or pull out your phone and turn it off. And the cool thing is it saves your battery as well, because the way we've done it is that by having this toggle, you can simply click this to turn it on, and it'll automatically, if you have your location off, it's going to ask you and prompt you and say, hey, your location's off, click here to turn it on. And then it'll turn on your location on your device. That way you can start tracking properly. But if you have your location always on, if you toggle this off, it's no longer going to be checking your location every 2 seconds, so your battery will last a lot longer. Now, when you do need to travel for work, that's where you can simply toggle it on, and then it's going to automatically start tracking your whereabouts, right? It's going to calculate the time that you've been tracking and also the distance that you traveled. So then you can come to this report at any time, and you'll be able to, choose a date range like I did to find this, and you can get basically the distance and time that you traveled. But an important feature as well, because sometimes it happens, you might have forgot to turn it off and it was a weekend and oh geez, I can't claim this on my taxes. So you can actually come here and delete mileage. So you could choose the date range for the weekend, let's say, and then click delete mileage. And whatever is showing here on the report is going to delete for that time range, right? So if I click that now, it's going to delete everything from April 1st to May 6th. So it's really important to be able to control these things, because for accurate records and make sure that you don't end up in hot water with the IRS, you want to make sure that things are done properly. But like I said, even if you don't submit to, for tax credits, this is just hugely important to see at the end of the year, how much am I traveling for business? And you can see like, okay, I'm doing a lot of mobile jobs. I feel like I'm making good revenue, but is there a way I could travel less? So now imagine pairing this, your mileage report, with the job map that we went over earlier in the webinar, combining those two reports together and saying, okay, I'm traveling a lot. I feel like I'm always on the road. I'm traveling everywhere. I'm spending a fortune in gas, repairs on my vehicle, wear and tear, things like this, and even just lost time where when you're in the car, you're not detailing. So it's lost time in a sense. Compare that with your job map and you can say, oh, geez, maybe if I start advertising closer to where my clusters are, something like that, I'll be traveling less and I can make more money ultimately. So getting this data goes back to the data, and collecting that data is going to be so beneficial for your business. There's no reason not to do it. So even if you're not going to go after the tax credits, which you should, but if you're not going to, track your time just to make better business decisions as you go.
Yeah, I'll also add this from a tax perspective, at least in Actually, I guess I'm gonna have to say it depends on the state you live in the United States, though I would actually imagine this being relatively consistent across the United States. You cannot you cannot legally write off, assuming you're a sole proprietor, single member LLC, standard. Uh, Kind of what most of you probably are here in the beginning stages, or even an LLC, no matter who you are. But you're not going to be able to write off both. Let's say like general car expenses like oil changes, gas, wear and tear, tires, and your mileage. So what ends
Hmm.
up happening is if you want to write off your general work vehicle expenses, you get like a max credit of like $1,500. It's very little. The mileage that you're going to get something like 15 or 25 cents or 50 cents per mile for that entire calendar year, that entire business year. So the tax credit that you're going to get from including your mileage as a deduction is far greater than if you're going to choose the other. So just another reason why you need this data when it comes to your tax deductions at the end of the year. This is what you want to submit. It just doesn't make any sense to do
Absolutely.
it any other way.
Absolutely. And on that note too, the insurance for your vehicle as well, if you call your insurance company and let them know that you are tracking your mileage, they'll actually give you credits back as well in a lot of cases. I know ours does that as well because they want to know, like when we tell them, they say, how much do you travel for work? And we can tell them, I travel this much for work. They give us a discount if we go, less kilometers or less miles on the road because they want to know, what's your percentage of time that you're on the road? What's the likelihood of an accident, right? So if you say, hey, I'm only going, 15,000 miles a year, and they say, okay, you're going to be in this this premium amount, then you can say, well, actually, I looked at my mileage and it's reduced. I'm now doing 10,000, so I'm not doing as much. They might give you a discounted rate on your premium as well. So it's possible. It's
That
worth the
is
phone
really
call.
interesting. That totally makes sense too,
Yeah.
especially for you guys who are under 25 years old and you're getting charged a heavy premium already because
Oh yeah.
you're statistically reckless. Um, this would be a very good thing for you to actually just like submit to your insurance company and say, "Hey guys, is there anything that can this lower my premium? Is there anything I can get back from my premium payments this year? I only drove this amount of time. What
Hmm.
does that look like?" That's very interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once again, it goes back to the data. If you have the data, you can make
Totally.
some magic happen.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly. Okay, so that being said, I'm skipping over this next bullet point because I want to ask this question. When it comes to like tracking expenses, so we're talking about tracking data, getting information.
Sure.
So what about expenses on my business? And that includes things like gas, wear and tear on my car, all that sort of stuff. But
Sure.
let's say like, and we didn't even talk about this previously, and so I don't even know if this is a feature. I'm just thinking because I wrote expense tracking here, but products I buy, tools I buy, things of
Sure.
that nature. Like is that something I can
Absolutely.
keep track of within the app? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to say no, but of course it is. So, so, and here's
Uh,
where OrbisX really shines too, is that it's all about options and workflow. Some people love QuickBooks, for example. Some people use this one called Xero. There's a lot of different apps out there. Your accountant might use another one. So the whole thing is you need to track stuff. And OrbisX is about options. So that's why we integrate with Zapier. So you can use QuickBooks or you can use Xero or you can use, there's thousands of them that integrate with Zapier. So you can use all of those systems if you want to, if you already have accounts, you're familiar with it, whatever. But we also gave you the option of not having a third party subscription and just doing everything in OrbisX. So if we go into finances and then we click on expenses, there is a full expenses suite built in and it's just included with it. And so through there, you can add accounts. So you can, I can click on manage accounts and it's going to ask me for, like MasterCard. You can make one that's a auto, defaulted. And then you have, your Visa, or you can add your bank account, whatever different ones. Now, this isn't going to pull information from your bank account specifically. And that's for a few reasons. One of the biggest ones is it's a whole privacy thing that we just don't really want to get into right now with the privacy and security side. QuickBooks does do that well. So if that's something you're interested in, that's where I would recommend setting up Zapier and having your QuickBooks pull your information over, and then you can have that automatically zap into OrbisX, right? So that's the way I would go in that
And
case.
I'm going to interrupt you really quickly just because
Sure.
I'm sure some people are thinking, what does he mean when he says Zapier? Zapier is a
Yes.
software that is basically a go-between between other softwares. So you could think about it like a mutual friend that introduces you to, like, hey, I know this guy because of Fred. Fred introduced us and he made the introduction go really smoothly. And now I'm friends with this other person. That's what Zapier does in the technology world. Zapier is going to basically integrate other softwares that you're using. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that I want to, let's say that I want to use QuickBooks and I want to use, like, let's say Google Sheets. And I want all of my expenses that are tracked as product expenses in QuickBooks, if they're categorized as a product expense, I want it to be I want that to automatically go into my Google Sheet. I don't want any other expenses, just that one. I can set up, I can connect those two softwares within Zapier, my Zapier account, and I can basically create a flow. That's what Shawn is saying, a workflow where I say, when product expense comes into QuickBooks, automatically input into Google Sheet.
Exactly.
So anyway, that hopefully
Yeah.
I'm not being too confusing with that, but that is what it is.
Yeah, no, and that's perfect. Yeah, and if anyone does have questions on Zapier, I would be happy to make a video. I did make one showing how to do what they call field mapping, where you connect those dots. You say, link this app to this app, and you can set fields like send this data specifically at this time, and so on and so forth. But I'd be more than happy to help anyone that's interested in automating with Zapier. I can help you out with that as well. They do have paid accounts, like premium subscriptions, depending on the type of Zaps you want to do or the volume. But they also have free accounts as well, which helps, because if you're just doing one specific task and you're not doing high volume, you can do it 100% for free. But if you want to just track your expenses within OrbisX, you have that total ability here. And like I said, you can set up your accounts, you can, filter things by accounts, and that way you can do your self-balancing and say, okay, I know I'm supposed to pay off my MasterCard, how much is still owing? And that's where things like this column here, where it shows repaid, that's helpful to see if something's been repaid or not. And let's say we repaid this bill here, $450, we repaid it. I just have to click that button and now it's repaid. And then essentially I can filter by, show only the ones that are owing, and I can show recurring expenses, so on and so forth. So it does have a full expenses suite built in, and it's pretty simple. You can add new expense and you would put in an amount. Let's say I bought something for $100. It automatically calculates the taxes paid. You can choose the different currency that you're using. You can put in a reference number, assign it to an account. You can also, assign it to a vendor, or if it doesn't exist in your list, you can create a new one. Similarly with category, and then you can assign to a client, and you can also assign to an invoice. And so it's as simple as if I start, typing in an invoice and stuff pops up, and then you can see it automatically grab the client for that invoice. You can upload receipts, and then you can also say, this is going to be recurring every month, for example, right? And then
So
add
this is
expenses.
something that for you guys who are beginning and you don't have a ton of expenses or a ton of inflow, outflow cash, this might be a super easy way to just manually input rather than putting it into a Google Sheet or something like that. You keep it in this all-in-one platform where all your business is being done. And I'm seeing that little button that says export up there. So I'm sure you can export like a CSV and put it in a Google Sheet
Absolutely, and I
or
was just
something
about to
like
say
that.
that. So, because even our shop, like we're doing seven figures, and we put all of our expenses in Orbis, all of
Right,
them,
right.
and so so we have a lot of expenses for the stuff we buy, and we're doing like windshield replacement, tinting, vinyl wraps, detailing, everything. So we buy a lot of product. It all goes in here, and we manage our full payroll, everything. We do it all in here, and then our accountant, they have their own login, and they just log in and they export things. So we've now started setting things up with Zapier for them, because Zapier, we integrated that about a month ago, so it's new. But they still log in and export things. But that's where you can see right here, receipt. So you can see there's your receipts will be there. You can click that and it'll download PDF to your file, to your computer or your phone. So you can do everything you can do here. Copy, edit, receipt, delete, and then it'll show you your what currency, subtotal, taxes paid. It'll show you the vendor if it was billed to a client. So you have full accounting done here in one spot, and it's all included. And you can even search, and you can search by, I want to find everything for that was charged to my Visa between this date and this date that matches this term. So you can do full searching as well. And then the export, I click export and I choose the date range. It's going to give me a CSV file, and I hand that over to my accountant, and they're happy as anything. You can also, another way to export too, just in case if you forget about this button, under admin, there's import export. And then from there, that's where you have all your options. You can export leads, clients, invoices, payments, expenses, and even your POS stock items.
And Shawn, when it comes to like invoicing a customer, so this is interesting. So within the OrbisX platform, you invoice a customer, they pay with their credit card, that automatically gets logged within your invoices or payments and things like that, correct?
Yes, exactly. So here,
Okay,
there's just a
so
bunch of tests here. If I click finances, under finances, that's where you'll find like all those kind of things. You have like invoices, payments, expenses, estimates. So if you click payments, it'll show, so here's all the payments that were made, and then it shows the customer and then the invoice. And I would actually be able to click on the invoice, and then from there, there's going to be a section towards the bottom where it also shows invoice payments, and it'll log everything. And then we have this, what we call the autobiography, and it shows like whether it was viewed, if it was paid, and things like that, and then the dates. So it does log all the payment details there as well.
So this
So
is just a simple way to, like we're talking about gathering data, getting information. You
absolutely,
want to track this information. You need this information, especially in the beginning stages, as you're, you're not bringing in 7 figures in your detailing business, right? So this is just a
absolutely.
simple kind of profit loss viewpoint, and it's also going to let you track and kind of filter if you want to see, when did I buy this product last? Okay, so it seems like every 3 months, this product, this product, this product is what is being purchased. You get a very accurate bird's eye view, if you want, of exactly what's coming in, exactly when it's needed. So you just get all those numbers dialed in real specifically.
Absolutely. And because the previous invoice I showed you, it only had a payment. It didn't have any expenses. So if you attach an expense to an invoice, you'll see your profit loss for that particular invoice as well. So on that same thing, you would see, invoice payments and then invoice expenses, and then it's going to calculate your profit loss for that particular invoice. You can see on that job, did I actually make money? Did I lose money? Did I break even? So, and all of that data is just hugely important. So same thing under reports, there's a lot of reports here. So I'll click bookings and sales report, for example, and it's going to show you your bookings report, but then it's also going to break down your item sales. So it's going to say, this is just for the last 30 days, but I bet if I change the date range to something crazy in the past, here, let me just do, because we have a lot of test data in here. We should anyways. To today, sure, change date. So here, it's going to break things down, and it's going to say like tinting 2 windows, how many times did we sell that, like how much money did we make during this period, and then I can filter that by showing only paid invoices versus all invoices, so on and so forth, and it's going to break that down. So there's a lot of data, a lot of reports. This is our bookings report where you can show like how many people, if you have your staff booking jobs, you can see who booked the most bookings, things like that. So there's a lot of things under reports when it comes to collecting data, that the more data that's in the system, the more fine-tuned you can look at your business and say, okay, this is the direction we're going. These are the decisions we need to make because the data supports it.
So this is probably a good place to put a pin in it. And honestly, I do even have a couple more bullet points that I don't want to go
Sure.
into, because I think we touched on it some last, but this is a lot of information. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We are going to stop here. This is going to be recorded and posted, of course. And remember, next week, same time, and I'll put out all the information you guys need to know to register for that. We are going to be doing heavy Q&A, and I'm going to be taking questions before all this week, so we can even open up asking those specific questions that you have. So guys, and Shawn, by the way, I think you're the presenter of this webinar. So just by the way, when I say, all right, see you guys later, I'm pretty sure it ends, but you probably have to exit out as well for it to end. So just wanted everybody to know. So anyway, Shawn, thank you so much for doing this. Deeply
Absolutely.
grateful. This is extremely helpful. And everybody, Shawn and I will plan on seeing you next week at the same time, and look out in the Facebook group and in your email so that we can start collecting the questions you have before we even start.
Perfect.
Shawn, anything else to add?
No, I guess, well, the only thing is, I'll keep everyone posted as well. Well, I'll keep you posted, Luke, on the new booking form so that you can notify the group as well. And
Yes.
then, like I said, if there's other things that specifics people want to know, I would gladly put together like a recorded video on, like, Zapier, or if someone's like, hey, can I get a refresher on how to use the expenses or something? I'd be more than happy to do that as well.
Totally. Okay, perfect. Shawn, thank you so much. And everybody, we will see you next week. This is my official sign off here. Alrighty. So everybody have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. See you guys then.